Now, if you look in here, you'll see that we've burnt out 2 of the bearings in this pulley. And that's those 2 long empty spots right there where there should be a bearing. So that makes this pulley kind of useless, but not if you're super cheap. So we're gonna reuse it. We're gonna keep using it, obviously. I'm gonna put these bearings back in. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use it for only some really small, like stuff that I would never use a decent sized pulley for, something small. Just, you know, helping over a branch, some really tiny stuff, because it's still a very strong situation. But if I put these 2 bearings back in and then put the sheave back together, it just went a long time without any attention, and I didn't think to open them up and add a little bit of oil. These bearings on this specifically are probably, you know, I think I've had these ones forever, since maybe like 2010. So now when I put this back together, I'm gonna make sure that this isn't used for anything near as aggressive as it would be. I think this one's good for 6,500, 8,500. Shoot, no way I'm gonna put that on there. But I would trust it with, you know, a few hundred pounds. So it's not gonna be used for any dynamic rigging or anything like that. But when I put it back together, I'm gonna put it in the tagline bag. So just use it for the tagline stuff. But some of these pulleys are kind of expensive, you know, 80, 100, you know, you get up to $400 for some of the really fancy ones. And, you know, you use everything for what it's made for. And this one, we would just make it to where we're not using it for anything dynamic, nothing heavy. And I'm gonna actually scratch the 8,500 out and put 200 on there with a little thing right there, so it'll make it easy. But all right, so I was able to get the bearings back in place. Now everything seems like it's doing just fine. So crisis averted. This probably will still be good for some heavier weight, and if it fails, it'll still turn over a decent axis, so it probably won't snap out entirely, and that's not a big deal. But I'm still going to use this for light rigging, just because it's shown itself to have some issues. But I retightened everything, and it's moving just perfect now. I was able to get those bearings back into the race. That's what I was worried about, if the bearings might not seat back in the race, and then, you know, you'd have to get a new pulley. But it's turning straight, and you can tell that everything's moving just right. It's not wobbling at all. So we got the bearing back in, and that's good. So we'll continue to use this tool. Thank you, toolbox, and 15 minutes of break time.